everyone, welcome back to the channel Philosophy and Everything Else. Today we are going to continue our series about religious pluralism by surveying the word religions. Now, while it is very interesting for us to survey all the word religions, it is impossible for us to survey all of them. We are just going to survey at most 4 in these videos, and even at that, it is not gonna be as comprehensive as what you will typically find in religious textbook about what is this religion and what are their traditions and so on and so forth. We are going to touch only the core principles of word religions, the ones that are usually agreed by most adherents of that religion. Now, I am not claiming that what I'm going to tell you here is going to be agreed by everyone confessing this religion, because we know that there are sometimes discrepancy between what religious believers actually believe and what the religion actually teaches. I am also not saying that what those religious believers actually believe are wrong. I am simply doing my best by gathering from trusted resources that I can find to summarize those core principles of these religions. With that spoken, let us continue to our survey starting from Hinduism. Now, Hinduism is not a religion that is really easy to understand. Why? Not because Hinduism is in itself a very difficult religion, but because the term Hindu usually is used as an umbrella term for a host of religions of the people who are called the Hindus. However, there are still certain characteristics that we can talk about correctly regarding Hinduism. I need to quote Fritz Stahl here that according to him, a Hindu may be a theist, pantheist, atheist, communist, and believe whatever he likes, but what makes him into a Hindu are the ritual practices he performs and the rules to which he adheres. In short, what he does. And according to yet another religious scholar of Hinduism, Gavin Flood, quote, Hindu is someone born within an Indian social group, a caste, who adheres to its rules with regard to purity and marriage, and who performs its prescribed rituals which usually focus on one of the many Hindu deities such as Shiva or Vishnu, end quote. Now you can understand why in the beginning I have to have a qualification that whatever I am going to tell you here maybe will be contested by the religious believers of that religion itself. Because as you can see, as we go into Hinduism, there are a host of beliefs that people believe that might contradict one another even though they still call themselves Hindu. With that said, we can still focus on what most Hindus actually believe regarding their religion. So according to Hinduism, most of the Hindus that you meet is going to tell you that there are many gods within Hinduism. The exact number of the gods is not known. However, there is also a certain agreement about how many gods there are actually, really, ultimately. What do I mean by that is that according to Hinduism, many of the gods are actually a realization of another more primary god. So sometimes this one god can actually take the form of another god, and yet even though we see them as 2 different personas, they're actually only one god. Usually they differ on who is this primary god. So according to Hinduism, even if we can identify this primary god, this one god that is the ultimate being, it is still unclear, or at least undecided among Hindus, whether this ultimate god has attributes or has no attributes. The god with attributes, that is usually called Saguna Brahman, that is not the proper name of the god itself, that is sort of like the name of the kind of the god, that is, it means the god with attributes. The god with attributes is simply the god that has all the attributes that you can put to them properly. So imagine like a god that has compassion, a god that has justice as his character or her character. So that is a god with attributes. That is Saguna Brahman. The other conception of God within Hinduism will be Nirguna Brahman, which basically means that the god without any attributes. This is the conception of God that is popular mostly among Western educated Hindus because it is propagated by Ramakrishna Paramahansa and then brought to the West by his pupil called Swami Vivekananda. Now, according to Nirguna Brahman conception of God, God does not have any attributes, and everything that we say about God is just gonna be markers about who God really is, because our words will not be able to contain who God is actually, will not be able to refer who God is actually. And this God can actually, by many proponents of this belief, this particular conception of God, to be ourselves, which is to say that all of us are actually one God. All distinctions in this world is just illusory. Everything is one, according to this particular branch of Hinduism. Now let's go on to the main problem according to Hinduism. The main problem according to Hinduism is that we are engulfed in this eternal reincarnation process that is called samsara. This eternal reincarnation process is not something that you might want to be happy with, because this eternal recurrence is something that people want to get out of. Now imagine that you are on a roller coaster. Maybe the first run is thrilling, the first run is fun, and you get what you paid for. But imagine that the roller coaster will not end eternally, and you cannot even decide which path you are going to run in your next roll. So imagine that the first run is pleasant, it's kind of like thrilling and you like the balance and so on. But the second run maybe is not just your taste. Maybe it is too crazy. It is something that is too adrenaline pumping. And the notion that you have no choice about whether to choose this or that path is just something that is not welcome in Hinduism. Well, in one sense, you can choose which path that you can run through accumulating your karma, and your karma is going to determine the path that you are going to go on in the next life. But of course, as we all know, that it is really hard for us to keep our mind steady to think about our next life, because we cannot even think too much about our next hour or even our next days, at least just for me maybe. But you get the point here. This is not something that is welcome in Hinduism. They want to get out of here. So now we get to the point at how do we get out of this situation? Well, the way we get out of this situation is through yoga. This yoga means discipline. There are at least 4 types of yoga. And one of them is Bhakti Yoga, or the other is Raja Yoga, and the other again is Karma Yoga, and another one is Jnana Yoga. I don't know if I pronounced that right. But in any case, there are ways for you to reach the end of Hinduism. What is the end according to Hinduism? It is called moksha. Moksha basically means that you got released. You are freed. Freed from what? You are freed from samsara. Now, different branches of Hinduism, different schools of Hinduism, they have different opinions about what it's going to look like when you achieve that moksha. One of them says that achieving moksha is like a drop of water being dropped into the ocean, which means that you are absorbed to the prime one. You are absorbed to the one, so to speak, where you will not have any personal characteristic anymore, where personhood is nonsense. Or you may retain your personality because of the kindness of a certain god that helps you get out from that samsara. Again, we don't know which one is true, and that is not our main point. Anyway, it doesn't serve as a purpose to determine which one is the true Hindu principle. And even some Hindus will take that it is just normal for Hindu people to disagree on this matter, and they just live together peacefully anyway. So that is Hinduism. In the next video, we are going to talk about Buddhism, and then the next 2 videos will be in Christianity and Islam. Make sure that you stay in tune with the next videos to come by subscribing to this channel and turning on the notification. I will see you in the next video. Bye.